my question for you, I have to ask you this because growing up, you're starting to make some noise. Everybody's starting to get to know Jack Givens in his high school days. Um, why did you decide to come to Kentucky? Because at that time, you're going to talk a little bit about it. At that time, Kentucky wasn't necessarily known to African American players and having players like that.
Yeah.
Why though? Why did you decide to take that?
Well, yeah, there were a few reasons. Some of them are kind of practical. Some of them were just uh, the way things were. Uh, uh, Number one, you're right. It wasn't when I was younger. I'm talking about, you know, really formative years where if you are going to have sports heroes,
Right.
where those kind of heroes would be formed. Uh, the University of Kentucky wasn't even on my radar because I just didn't have anybody at Kentucky who I could look at and say, man, that's me out there. There was nobody there.
Yeah.
The other thing was right before me, there were so many great basketball players. I'm talking about those teams at Dunbar High School and at Douglas High School. Man, those guys could play circles around me.
Yep.
And those guys didn't even get considered to play at the University of Kentucky. So growing up here, that pretty much wasn't an option for me in my mind.
Yeah.
I was going to go to, if I played ball in college, I was going to go to Kentucky State University because that's what we did back in those days,
Right.
But as I started playing at Bryan Station, I started getting better and started getting more interest. It was pretty neat because every game we played, whether it was here in Lexington,
Right.
some of the surrounding counties that we played high school ball against, whether it was in Owensboro, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, whether it was in Hazard, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, there was blue and white in the stands.
Can't avoid it.
And I mean, I got recruited every night we had a game.
Wow.
Because we would go in, and from the time we got off the bus to the time we left, there was people screaming and shouting, "We want you! We want you!" So
that sounds about right. That sounds like Big Blue Nation.
Yeah, it really was. So that was eye-opening for me because all of the stuff I had heard was that the response and the reception wouldn't be like what I found it to be.
So it was a little surprising to you.
So when the opportunity came to make that decision, against a lot of people who grew up in my neighborhood, I'm talking about a bunch. At the church I went to, Greater Liberty Baptist Church, Reverend Lee and James Lee, who went to Kentucky with me from right here in Lexington. That was his dad's church. I grew up in that church. But a lot of the guys in there, man, the deacons, the guys who had been around, they didn't want us going to Kentucky. So it was a tough decision to make. My mom didn't want me going to Kentucky, and I respected her and what she had to say more than anybody. But she left the decision up to me, and we decided to do it. And obviously, I'm glad I did. The rest is kind of history, as they say. But it wasn't an easy decision.
It sounds like it wasn't. If everybody's telling you no, and you like, I guess you go with your gut feeling in terms of what you wanted to do.
Sometimes you have to do that.
For sure.